is Mystery Meat's Fine Dining podcast, helping foodies discover new restaurants and new friends. Here's your host, the founder of Mystery Meat, Seth Ressler.
Hello, and welcome to Mystery Meat's Fine Dining podcast. I'm your host. My name is Seth Ressler. This is the podcast for foodies who love travel and travelers who love food. Here's how it works. We go into a different city each week and we talk to a local food expert. Might be a food blogger, might be a food event organizer, something like that. Might be a chef. And we basically get the lowdown on their city, find out everything a foodie needs to know about their city. And this week, we're going to talk to Chris Angeles, who runs Portland Food Adventures up in Portland, Oregon. So we'll find out everything we need to know about the city of Portland and talk to him about what Portland Food Adventures does, because they do some very, very cool stuff. And then we'll play Out of the Frying Pan. But before we get to all that, I want to make sure everybody knows what Mystery Meat is. Now, Mystery Meat is a social dining group that we started in Boston back in 2010. It's a bunch of foodies. They get together and they go have a meal at a restaurant. The catch is they don't find out where they're going until 24 hours in advance. So literally, you buy your ticket, you don't know. You're putting your dining life in our hands. We think we make some very fine choices, and you go and you meet up with a bunch of very adventurous foodies, and you have a great meal. We have now launched in San Francisco, and coming in 2013, first thing, we're going to Seattle. All right, look out, Seattle. Mystery Meat's coming. If you want a Mystery Meat dinner in your city, all you have to do is go to mysterymeat.org, click the big orange button that says Get an Invitation, and sign up. And when we see a lot of interest in your town, we'll come. We'll set up a dinner, all right? All right, let's talk to Chris Angeles of Portland Food Adventures. Chris, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. It's good to talk to you this morning.
Yeah, so tell me about yourself. Tell me, you're not a Portland native, so how did you wind up there?
I had the opportunity. I'm self-employed. I have an ad agency, and I had occasion to find myself on the beach in Bandon, Oregon, and I had an epiphany. And then we ended up in Portland a couple of days later, and that epiphany took on an interest in moving. My kids were a little freaked out, but it took a couple of years. They were in middle school and high school, and we moved out here in 2005. But it had nothing to do with food. It was just geography and a change of pace. Other than the fact that I look like I eat a lot, I never considered myself a foodie.
So you were not a foodie when you moved to Portland?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so talk to me about the transformation. How did you become a foodie? How did you ascend into the ranks?
Well, it's very interesting, and I like to tell this story because when I stayed downtown at one of the hotels and I asked the concierge where to go to eat, they gave me Jake's and Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, which you can go to anywhere in the country. So here you are in Portland, no reason to go there.
Right.
And another nice little spot that was downtown. But when I asked, what's on the other side of the bridge on the east side of Portland, I was told, you don't want to go over there. You'll just get lost, and there's nothing really of interest.
Right.
So when I moved here, and it took me, I think, about 6 months to finally get that out of my mind and say, well, let me go see what's over there and be a little adventuresome. Around 2005 is when the food scene started taking off here, and a lot, because it's a little cheaper over there, a lot of the restaurants were starting to take hold.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading a website called PortlandFoodAndDrink.com, and he does some amazing reviews, Food Dude, and started slowly but surely, as I was dating pretty much, in a creative manner, just get out there and explore the food scene. And, well, it's pretty easy to become enamored with it in Portland because there's so many amazing places. But what I realized was, as much as I was going out and learning new things, there was a group of restaurants I'd never even heard of, but they were coming up on the radar too, and it just never stopped. For us, the number 22 market in the country, it's almost unfathomable how many eating opportunities there are here.
So talk to me about what you've seen in terms of growth since 2005. I mean, you've seen a lot of restaurants start to come up, and why is that?
The reason it is you've got this convergence of a number of things. And I think at the base of it all is the water, the rain that we get, which creates such an incredible climate for our farms.
Mm-hmm.
And they produce some of really the most incredible crops imaginable.
Wow.
And you've got a lot of farmers starting way back in the early 90s who started working with some of the few chefs that were here doing the original farm-to-table movement, providing produce for them. And the chefs telling them what they wanted, and the farmers telling the chefs what they had, and this kind of collaboration where they were really starting this incredible farm-to-table movement.
So you're seeing a lot of communication between the chefs and the farmers? I mean, they really...
Yeah, oh, yeah. It started back with, Vitaly Paley and Greg Higgins back in the 90s, but now it's just continued. And what really helped Portland take off was it's a relatively inexpensive market. So you had a lot of people coming to Portland who saw the scene, and they could get the entry point was fairly low in terms of either starting a business or just getting some experience.
Right.
Because you could live for not a lot and get in with a chef and not have to make a lot, because they don't make, it's not a high-paying business.
Yeah.
But if there are so many people with passion out here, and I think that's what's driven it, is this artisan culture where chefs are doing it because they love it and it's art to them, more so than other markets where they're doing it primarily to make a profit.
So are you seeing a lot of chefs come from other cities and other parts of the country into Portland?
There aren't many that grew up here. They came out here and discovered something special the same way I did. I mean, it's really a beautiful, incredible place. So when you even take the food out of the picture, Portland is just a temperate, beautiful place to be. And the dirty little secret is the rain isn't as bad as everybody thinks it is.
So walk me through some of the neighborhoods or dining districts. I mean, if I'm coming into Portland for the first time and I'm a foodie, where should I go explore?
That's one of the character issues that you'll find with Portland is it's made up of a group of neighborhoods, and there are a lot of them. And they've grown, and there are some new ones that have started to take off. What's really happening is on the east side of town. And a lot of that is the price of real estate and the price of entries. And there are a lot of places that are written about on Eater and the blogs. And then there's this whole other tier of neighborhood joints that are great.
Wow.
But that you don't read about because they're just basically known in the neighborhood. And they're packed.
Yep.
In a market where unemployment has been fairly high, the restaurants here are always busy.
Huh.
It's a strange market because the chefs complain all the time that there are too many restaurants, yet they all support each other. They're happy to see their friends doing well.
It's good to have a good chef community then.
A lot of chefs work for each other, know each other. They all get together. They're friends. But it's not a really competitive area. I mean, if everybody's an artist, everybody appreciates what everyone else is doing.
Oh, that's very cool. So is there a best time of year to come out to Portland?
Yeah, the summertime. The summers here are like nowhere else, I believe. There's no humidity.
Yeah.
And the weather from, I would say, June or July right through to September, October is almost perfectly beautiful every day with very little rain, if at all.
Nice. Now, are there any big food events that happen throughout the year that are worth checking out?
Well, I think the most notable one was put together by a couple of folks just about a month ago called Feast Portland, and it was the first annual, and it was an event that was planned to put Portland on the national map. And a couple of folks, Kerry Welch and Mike Thielen, one of whom had worked with the Food Network and Mike, who'd done lots of food events, put together this event, and you would never have had an idea that it was the first year. They had chefs from around the country here, well-known chefs. It was a 3-day event with hundreds of people going to different venues. They had a night market, which was kind of an Asian-themed evening where a lot of chefs from around the world, even as far as Thailand,
Wow.
were serving up their fare, and it was all paired. It was all inclusive, one price, beer, wine, sake. There was another one called High Comfort, which was basically a kind of high-end take on comfort foods by chefs from Portland and around the country. And then they had the Sandwich Invitational, which was strictly incredible sandwiches.
Oh, that's a cool concept.
Yeah, really everybody talked about it around here because they did such a great job in putting it together. It was flawless.
So Portland's got a big food festival now, brand new.
Yeah, and it takes place the third week in September.
Okay.
So put that on the calendar. Anybody from anywhere in the country would have a really fun time visiting when that is going on.
All right, so we'll come check that out.
And it doesn't mean that we don't have others. I mean, we've got a lot of, summer dinners on farms with Plate and Pitchfork.
Tell me about Plate and Pitchfork. What is that?
It's a woman by the name of Erica Palmer who does about 16 events a summer on different farms. And she brings a couple of chefs from Portland, a winemaker, and there are about 100 people at each dinner. Long sets of tables out in the middle of a farm having an incredible 4 or 5 course dinner.
Oh, that's cool. All right, I want to talk to you about your events. So coming up, we're going to do that in just a second. We're going to talk about Portland Food Adventures, find out everything that's going on with that. Back in October, I interviewed Emma McCarthy of Lovin' Spoonfuls for episode 11 of our podcast. Now, I don't know if you remember, but Lovin' Spoonfuls is the food rescue organization in Boston. What they do is they put trucks out on the streets of Boston, and these trucks go to grocery stores and restaurants, and they pick up perishable food that would otherwise be wasted, and they deliver that food to people in need. Well, they were hosting their ultimate tailgate party with a dozen of Boston's best chefs in the hopes of raising enough money to put a third food rescue truck on the streets of Boston. And after the event, Emma called me and left this message to tell me what happened.
Hi, Seth. This is Emma from Lovin' Spoonfuls in Boston. I just wanted to tell you how the tailgate event went last weekend. The event was a huge success. Over 350 people came out to support Lovin' Spoonfuls and sample food from our amazing lineup of chefs. A few of highlights included Korean barbecue sloppy joes from Myers and Chang, lobster tacos from Chef Jeremy Sewell of Island Creek Oyster Bar and Lineage, and ribs and cornbread from Andy Husbands and Tremont 647. It was a truly magical night, and we're so excited to have raised over $80,000 to put towards our food rescue operations. Thanks again for having me on your Mystery Meat podcast. It was so much fun.
So there it is. They raised $80,000. That's enough money to put a third food rescue truck on the streets of Boston. So congratulations to Lovin' Spoonfuls. Great job. All right, we're talking with Chris Angeles of Portland Food Adventures. Chris, tell me the concept behind Portland Food Adventures. What's it all about?
We go to different restaurants, and it's a chef-based event where the chef develops their, usually it's 6, sometimes up to 10-course menu, and no one generally knows what the menu is before they show up. The chef talks about the restaurant, their dreams, but most importantly, what they do is they talk about Portland and what they love about Portland and where they like to go. So they talk about the folks that they may have worked with or places they like to hang, some of the off-the-beaten-path places. And we send everybody off into Portland from the evening with gift certificates to go try the chef's favorite places.
So the chefs are actually giving recommendations, and then you're sending people to the places that the chefs recommend.
Right. A couple of years ago, when I was sitting in Tasty & Sons, and I was talking to John Gorham, who's one of our great chefs here. I asked him when he opened Tasty & Sons, which was an incredible brunch spot, and anybody who visits Portland must try Tasty & Sons if you can get in. I asked him where he liked to go to breakfast. He reeled off a series of places, some of which I'd heard of and some of which I'd been to, but some that I'd never even heard of, and I decided, I'm going to take those recommendations and I'm going to go try them all. I had such a good time, and I learned so much. I thought, there's something to this, chefs recommending where they like to go. And so I approached a few chefs, and I said, I have this idea. And all 4 said, sure, I'll try that. We did a series, Bing, 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 and I got TV coverage. It was great in late 2010. And I think I'm on event number 25 now. Here's the beautiful thing. Food is great, and events are great, but what really makes them are the people. And I didn't know when I started this how gratifying it was going to be to sit at a table and look around and think, I didn't know any of these people when I started this, and they're all having a good time.
Yeah.
And they're exchanging information, and they come up to me afterwards and thank me for sitting them next to somebody that they met, and then they become friends and they come back together to another event. That, to me, has been more gratifying than having incredible food.
I totally agree with you, and I have found that foodies are the nicest people. And what's so great about these types of events, you know, these sort of meetup events that revolve around food, so many of these meetup events are either singles events or they're business networking things, and when you revolve it around food, it becomes much more relaxed and much more enjoyable, and I think everybody has just a really good time because it's kind of low-key.
You know, it's funny that you mention that, because I had something come up recently where I had a gentleman who's with a high-end real estate firm, and he had a great time, and he actually called me into his office the next week. And he said, you know, I really want to plan some events with you. That was really special. And he said, what I liked about it most was I never get to go to an event like that where there's not an agenda.
Right.
Either I'm doing it I'm schmoozing clients, or I'm, you know, at some thing that my wife planned.
Right. Exactly.
Or I'm at a charity event where they're asking me for money. He said that was the first thing I've been to where I just got to sit and enjoy and meet new people.
So walk me through this. I know that you just did your November event with Tony Myers at Serato. Explain to me exactly what happens and how that one went.
In this particular event at Serato, we had their beautiful private dining room. So people showed up at 6 o'clock, and we had a welcome drink for them, and they mingled outside the little private dining space and got to know one another, and then we all went in and sat down. And in this particular dinner, we had a gentleman by the name of Jeff Latham, who runs Nikki USA. They provide wild game to restaurants and different organizations. This particular dinner was all a wild game menu. So Jeff and Tony talked about what everyone was about to eat, how the animals were raised, and why they tasted the way they did.
Nice. And so you've actually got Chef Tony Myers there explaining, you know, why he's choosing what he's choosing and how he's cooking it and, you know, what you're tasting. That's amazing.
Yeah. And depending on the event, sometimes they'll do that all in the beginning. We've had other events where Kathy Wims at Nostrana has come out and served every course and explained where she learned the recipe, the tweaks that she's made to it, and, you know, when it's served at the restaurant, where she gets the produce or where she gets the ingredients, all of those things. So Tony came out, and in this particular instance, Jeff from Nikki Farms was able to talk about his supplier for foie gras, and you're not allowed to have it down there.
No, it's been banned down here in California.
He went through, you know, where they get the rabbit, where the water buffalo comes from. If you've never had water buffalo, and I had never had it before Feast Portland, I tasted it there.
No, I've never had it.
It was incredible, and they served the marrow as well.
Wow.
And then we had some wild boar as well, and we had a quail that was incredible.
Oh, that sounds like a fantastic dinner.
With a quail fried egg on top of the
Nice.
quail. We had the grilled quail, for example, was served with warm marble potato salad, Melino bacon, Brussels sprouts, stone ground mustard vinaigrette, and a fried quail egg.
Wow.
That was one of 6 courses.
So this is a really special event. I mean, this is really, you get to know the chef, you get to know the food, where it's coming from. This is nice.
I want it to be an event like no other anybody's ever been to, and I do get a lot of positive comments.
So tell me what's coming up. What's on the docket?
One is at Gruner, which is an alpine restaurant Chef Chris Israel started 3 years ago. This will be the 3rd anniversary celebration. There's also a craft bar next door called Cask, which is part of Gruner. And we're going to start the evening at Cask. It's a Sunday night with a cocktail over at Cask, so everybody can get to know Cask. And then we're going to move over to Gruner. The restaurant is usually closed on Sundays, so we have the whole thing to ourselves.
Oh, wow.
So our dinner will be a private dinner at Gruner, which doesn't get to happen very often, especially with the chef serving it.
So that's December 9th.
And then the following month is very special. It's with Chef Vitaly Paley, who is one of our most renowned chefs in Portland. He's had a restaurant, Paley's Place, since, I believe, 1994 with his wife, Kimberly. Vitaly was a concert pianist in the Soviet Union who came over to the United States at a young age to find his way, ended up getting a little tired of it and working in some restaurants and going to France, and he became one of our most prolific chefs. In fact, to the point where I think it was last year, he was on Iron Chef America and defeated Jose Garces in Battle Radish.
Wow.
He's one of the people who's responsible for Portland's place on the national food map, and he spawned a lot of our best chefs as well.
So what are you doing with Vitaly Paley?
So what we're doing with the Vitaly Paley is he opened 2 new restaurants. One is called Imperial, and the other one is on the other side of the lobby of the Hotel Lucia called Portland Penny Diner. So what we're going to do is a dinner featuring Vitaly and his executive chef, Ben Bettinger, who also was Chef of the Year a couple of years ago when he worked at Beaker and Flask. So we've got 2 chefs that night serving us what I think is going to be an imperial meal.
Can you tell us a little bit about the menu? What kind of cuisine can we expect?
He does things like Dungeness crab and shrimp imperial, duck meatballs with prunes, spices, and gremolata. He does a Reuben with Dungeness crab, which is pretty incredible.
That sounds great.
And they have a grill at Imperial that is absolutely huge and beautiful, and they're doing a lot of great meat.
Cool. Well, Chris, you ready to play a little game?
I am. I have no idea what to expect, but, I'm here to win.
Be scared. Be very afraid. All right, here we go. This game is called Out of the Frying Pan. Here's how it works. I'm going to ask you for a restaurant recommendation. You're going to tell me, whatever comes to your mind off the top of your head. And the sole reason we do this is to make our guests feel uncomfortable, and I guarantee you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and you're going to slap your forehead and go, oh, I should have said whatever. All right, you ready to play?
Sure.
Food trucks. They become big in Portland?
Oh, I didn't even mention those yet. Yeah, they're huge. 700 of them.
Wow.
To be exact.
So pick one. If there's a food truck we should check out in Portland, what's your favorite food truck?
Charles Thomas, he's got a couple of Eurotrash food trucks. He serves some great shrimp sandwiches. He serves a foie gras sandwich. I hate to keep mentioning that, but where in the country in a food truck are you going to get foie gras?
Wow.
And he's a really nice guy.
All right. Tell me your favorite place to get an original cocktail.
I will go with Cask, and that is right next to Gruner, and we're going to be there next month. It's where you go if that's what you're looking for, is a cocktail.
Nice. You mentioned the sandwiches that were at the food festival. Tell me your favorite sandwich shop.
Oh, my favorite, without a doubt, would be Lardo, which was a food cart for a year. Rick Giancarelli, who started in Shelburne Farms as a farm-to-table chef at a hotel up there, and he's just opened Lardo in July over on Hawthorne and 12th, and it's so successful. In a couple of weeks, they're opening another one downtown. And by the way, the reason is he serves a porchetta and a banh mi that is unbelievable. Everything that he serves is great. His fries are done in lard, and he has dirty fries where he'll put some pork belly on top of it.
Nice. You talked about the farms there in Portland. Is there a farmer's market that we should check out?
Oh, they're all over the place. But the one that you have to go to is the Portland Farmers Market downtown at Portland State University. And there you'll find just about all the big farms bringing what they bring in every Saturday morning. I have my favorites there. There's Fresson Bakery doing a pretzel croissant that's unbelievable. I always have to stop there and grab one of those.
Nice.
Olympic Provisions is down there with all their salamis that are known nationwide. That's the consummate one, but what's interesting about this market is you'll find those same people at other food markets other days of the week. They don't just pick one generally.
All right, last question. What is your favorite spot to go for dessert?
That would probably be Papa Haydn. And there are 2 versions of Papa Haydn, one on Northwest 23rd and another one over just in Selwood. That is a dessert place, although they serve other dishes for dinner. They usually have a menu that's 2 or 3 pages long of beautiful cakes and pies and different desserts. And it is a great way to top off an evening.
Cool. All right. Well, now we know where to go when we're in Portland. Chris Angeles of Portland Food Adventures. People can go to the website, portlandfoodadventures.com. If they want to find you on social media, how can they do that?
Portland Food Adventures on Facebook or Portland Food ADV on Twitter.
Well, thank you so much. You've got the events coming up in December with Chris Israel at Gruner and Cask, and then you've got the Vitali Paley dinner coming up in January. We're looking forward to that. Thank you so much for joining us and talking to us. You've been absolutely wonderful.
I appreciate it, Seth, and I hope you can come up here and join us at a dinner sometime.
Oh, I would love to. My name is Seth Ressler. This has been the Fine Dining Podcast. Couple of notes. If you want a mystery meat dinner in your town, go to mysterymeat.org. Click the big orange button that says Get an Invitation. If you like this podcast, do us a favor, subscribe in iTunes, or even better, leave a recommendation. You can find links to a lot of the things we've been talking about at our website, mysterymeat.org. We'll post links to a lot of the things that Chris mentioned in this podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook, and we're on Twitter as well. And finally, if you're a blogger or a food organizer, or you just want to tell us how great the food scene is in your city, we'd love to have you on as a guest. Go to mysterymeat.org and click the Contact Us link, and we'll invite you to come on the podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time.
This has been Mystery Meat's Fine Dining Podcast. You can find links to the websites mentioned in this episode at mysterymeat.org/podcast. Thank you for listening.